Welcome to the Food Junkies Podcast. Here, we aim to provide you with the experience, strength, and hope of professionals actively working on the front lines in the field of food addiction. The purpose of our show is to educate you, the listener, and increase overall awareness about food addiction as a disease with abstinence as the solution. Here, we talk about all things recovery. Most importantly, how to thrive rather than just survive. So stay positive, make a change for yourself, tell others about your change, and hopefully the message will spread.
Welcome to the Food Junkies Podcast. My name is Dr. Vera Tarman, and I am your host today, speaking with Kathy Williams about how to support your family to live sugar-free in a sweet-filled world. Kathy has an MBA from Emory University and a mechanical engineering degree from University of Cincinnat. She has also been certified by the University of Pittsburgh's diabetic prevention program. As CEO of Williams ConsultlingGroup, Kathy is an author, speaker, health strategist, and diabetic prevention advocate. She also has a private coaching practice where she helps clients eliminate their cravings and sugar addiction in 90 days. Like many of us in the field, Kathy has her own personal story. From being pre-diabetic, she halted her pre-diabetic progression back to a normal blood sugar level, which she has maintained for over 10 years. Notably, she has even been able to help her son, a type 1 diabetic, to reduce his insulin and greatly improve his blood sugar levels. This is far and beyond what most doctors can achieve. She did this by changing his diet. Clearly, she has found a way to reach out to children as well as adults. Of interest to us at Food Junkies, what can Kathy tell us about how to encourage and support families to live a sugar-free life in a world that equates love with sugar? Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here, Dr. Vera.
Thank you. We always like to get with the personal first. Please share your background on becoming sugar-free and also how you moved from the world of science and business into the world of diabetic prevention and the promotion of a sugar-free life.
It's been a great journey. And the one thing I want to leave everyone with is the fact that it is possible to make this type of lifestyle shift without giving up taste. And you mentioned myself being the catalyst for the shift that's made in my family. And as moms, as influencers, as women in general, we're the person who is the nurturer. We are the person who's normally buying the foods and that sort of thing. And so my journey started with my diagnosis. I started out about 10 and a half years ago with a diagnosis of prediabetes. And I'm telling you, I've been in the healthcare field over 20 years, 20 plus years. And so I, at that time, felt like I was eating a normal diet with a protein, a vegetable, a carb, and it was just well-rounded. And on the weekends, I did what I wanted to do as far as pizza and fried things and all the goodness. So I had this 80-20 rule. I thought I was doing all the things. And until my body told me that I couldn't. And so I think that's one of the things that a lot of people think is I'm eating healthy, but quite honestly, I was having cranberry juice and a bagel for breakfast and a sandwich or a burger and fries for lunch, and then having a sensible meal with vegetables and everything else. So what I was doing was carb loading. And so my body just became resistant and my hemoglobin A1C started to creep up. My doctor showed me, it came out in my blood test, just definitely want to make sure that everybody is getting their physicals on an annual basis. I know the last several years it has been a problem as far as getting back to the doctor, getting back into the swing of things. But this is the reason why it's important. It's important to know when your levels are increasing so that you can be that catalyst for change. You can reverse the progression. And that's what I did. So like I said, I've been in the healthcare field for many years. I've seen all of the data pointing to chronic diseases, pointing to diabetes as that central theme, if you will. And so I knew that I did not want diabetes. And so I set out on some research. I learned a lot. and then gathered and put together a process to reverse my own prediabetes diagnosis. And it's a gradual reduction, but it's all based on science. And so I was successful in turning my own health around. And then
how long did that take from your high sugar levels to normalizing them?
So it took about a year and a half because I was inching along and doing a lot of research and talking to different people. However, I have been able to show results in my clients within 90 days. And that's because you've got the accelerated version of my process, which is outstanding. But you ask a very good question. And one of the things that I wanted to bring out is the fact that I was able to reduce my hemoglobin A1C a bit. Number one, I just want to give everybody context. Hemoglobin A1C is the measure of the average amount of sugar that you have in your blood over the last 3 months. So it's a look back over the last 3 months of the average of your blood sugar. And so when your body becomes insulin resistant or you're inching into this diabetic, type 1 diabetic state, your physical blood work, you can start to see these changes. And I saw it reduce because I cut sugar out of my life and made some other changes. However, I hit a plateau for about a year and a half. And many people told me, stop eating sugar. If it's going to flatten, then you might as well just keep eating sugar. And what I found out, I talked to my doctor and he was like, no, you keep doing what you're doing and it will continue to reduce. Because if you had continued the way that you were eating before, instead of it going from a 6 to a 5.7, it probably would be an 8 right now. So I just want to encourage you that if you are seeing a reduction and it flattens a little bit, don't be discouraged. Continue on your lifestyle journey. Realize that your body is changing and your body keeps the score, whether that's stress level, whether that's sleep habits, whether it's how your metabolism is slowing down, for example. We've been very sedentary. Your activity level is changing. Hormonally, I'm a woman of a certain age. And all of these changes change our body chemistry over time, and we get to listen. I like to use measurement in my practice with my clients and make sure that they understand what's going on in their bodies, because if you're not measuring, then you can't monitor, you can't make a change, you can't make a decision if you don't have that data. And I call it a personal feedback loop when you know what's going on in your body. So that is what happened for me.
That stalling that happened, it was just a period of time and then it continued to...
Yes, it went down to 5.5. Yes, subclinical, no longer pre-diabetic. Absolutely.
How did you get from what made you decide, okay, I want to do this as a profession?
It was just the fact that there are so many people who, just like me, get this diagnosis and get handed a pamphlet. So I was handed a pamphlet, and I was also given the recommendation to talk to a nutritionist. And so I did both. I read the pamphlet and I went to the nutritionist who told me what to do. And I argued with her because I thought I knew what to do and I didn't want to give up sugar. But the thing is that there's not a lot of information on the how. And so once I saw that I could reverse my prediabetes, it runs in my family. Women over 40 years old are predisposed. They increase their risk. Being of African American or Latina or Asian descent predisposes you. And a lot of people of color just don't have the information, or a lot of people, period, don't have the information. And I knew that I could make a difference. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I knew that it was in my future. I had no idea that it was going to be from health coaching perspective, though.
Tell us a little bit about your health coaching work.
Yes. So I actually do one-on-ones with individuals or with families. I call them my VIP days, where I come in and I give you all of the strategies customized based on where you are. I've got one client who she has had cholesterol issues since she's in her 20s. and was not able to reverse that situation. And she had a couple of kids. She's like mid 40s. And she really wanted to make a change, not only in her health, but the health of her parents. Both of them, one was diabetic and one was pre-diabetic. And her husband has heart issues in his lineage. And so he had started to see. So I actually had the whole family in a VIP day. I customized it for their goals. So it's either about 4 hours or 2 hours. And then I coach you on a one-on-one basis. The men didn't join, but the 3 ladies, I coached them one-on-one for the accountability, for the community, for just really being a resource as you get all of this information on what to do. Really walking through and holding their hands and helping them to prepare for vacations, all-day meetings. What happens when I go to a conference? What happens when I'm at a party or going to a party, to a picnic? Holidays are coming up. How do I deal with this? So once you get introduced to your life, then you can text me when you are in the grocery store, or we had one-on-one sessions every other week so they could be in life, have a situation, come back and say, this worked. How do I do with this? How do I prepare for XYZ coming up? And that's where the sustainability of my programs come into play, because you're able to exactly receive customized strategies as well as that accountability and really helping you to navigate this new lifestyle for sustainability. So committed action is what I like to call helps with your sustained results. To report to someone on every other week basis will help you to encourage and help you to actually work through all of the details.
That's for 90 days?
Yes. And for some, it could be 6 months, depending on their goals. It's really customized as far as how long it would take for the one-on-one coaching after the VIP day. It's an intensive day where we stay together and work through the strategies. And then the other thing that I will share, Vera, is she actually so she's a consultant and her husband traveled, and she had kids that were 7 and 9. So she had young kids. And I actually trained the babysitter who did meal prep for them and did snacks, took the kids to and from school, but really so that it was an incorporation of snacks for the mom and dad as well as the children. There are multiple of ways to infuse this type of training and this type of new lifestyle change so that it is sustainable for the entire family.
Is this total sugar-free, or is it like the occasional cheat day? What's your take on the concept of moderation?
My perspective is that there's not a lot of people that know how much sugar the CDC recommends on a daily basis. For women, we should only consume 25 grams of sugar during the course of a day. For men, 36 grams. There are not a lot of people that even realize how many grams of sugar are in anything.
That's equivalent to 4 to 6 teaspoons a day.
That's correct. However, things are hidden. A milkshake at Chick-fil-A, 85 to 100 grams of sugar, depending on what type. Like they have this peach, it's 100 grams of sugar in a peach milkshake. This comes out seasonally, thank goodness, but still 85 in a vanilla and chocolate. So it's 4 times the amount that you should be eating. So my recommendation is if you consume anything with sugar in it, I recommend 5 grams of sugar or less. That way you can get the sweetness that you're craving, and you can actually have it so that your body is not working overtime and your insulin doesn't become resistant and you walk through to the diabetes or the prediabetes state. I use the glycemic index to help to make these changes because many people just don't realize the carb load that your body takes on when you're eating carbs, and the fact that carbs break down into simple sugars. So these are all concepts that I teach, but there's ways to use, like I said, this 5 gram of sugar rule so that you are weaning yourself off sugar. Like I said, I do a gradual reduction method, and you're able to satisfy your taste buds without giving up taste. And your body starts to make those shifts. There'll be a shift in your palate. So drinking a milkshake will not be something that you can actually do, but there's a way to do it. So gradually moving away from sugar, using these things like I love Kind bars. So this is chocolate and sea salt. This has 3 grams of sugar. It's got your crunch. It's got almonds in here. It's got protein, and it's got your chocolate. So you're going to be satisfied. So I use this as my dessert after lunch or dinner. I would put these in my car. So if I was craving something, I'm not going to go to a drive-through or that sort of thing, even buy candy or that sort of thing. So using things like the Kind bar. One of the things I did for my children was I put cocoa-covered almonds in their lunchbox. And you'll see that I have these in clear glass jars. These are all in my pantry so that we're making better choices. I've got pistachios in here. My recommendation is a gradual reduction method, but limiting to 5 grams of sugar, because you do need a transition where you are making sure that you are shifting away from sugar, reducing the amount. And then many times people are not eating enough. So I have people add on raw fruits and vegetables to their breakfast, lunch, and dinner so that they are satisfied. Many people are dehydrated. I make sure that they're drinking the right amount of water. So all of these techniques help you to be full, to be satisfied, to satisfy your craving, whatever it is. I've got a list of all snacks and drinks and alcoholic beverages, all 5 grams of sugar or less, so that you can make those shifts.
Now, just to clarify, 5 grams of sugar is 1 teaspoon approximately. All right. This is Food Junkies, and it's for food addicts. What about the food addict? Do you have food addicts in your practice? What do you do?
Yes, I don't consider myself a food addict. However, I was a harmful user. Yes. So I don't know if you've had bitten on, but she classifies sugar addiction in different levels.
That's right. Or we would say early to moderate.
Early to moderate, yes. I was drinking juice for breakfast. I was having at least 2 Pepsis a day. So I drank my calories. I know there's a lot of people that eat candy. I was drinking chais on a daily basis. I was out there from that perspective. And then absolutely enjoyed Oreos and chocolate and caramel and all the things. So I absolutely do have clients who are food addict or sugar addicted. One client, the first thing she used to do in the morning was take her drawer full of candy that's on her nightstand, and she would eat candy first thing in the morning. And yes, I have strategies for the food addicted as well, or sugar addicted as well.
Which I'm assuming does not include the 5 grams of sugar a day.
No, it does not. Really doing that mindset work and really understanding what is behind the draw to sugar, what they're trying to replace, or the emotions behind why they're going towards the excess of sugar.
It's really important to know on the outset where the person is on that continuum of harmful user to actually food addict. Yeah, you're really keen to talk about strategy. The sugar proofing of the family. To begin with, how did you get your family on board to be willing to do this with you?
The great thing is that
that's the biggest challenge, right?
It is our biggest challenge. We've got the airline industry to really help with this analogy of putting your own oxygen mask on first. You will find once you take the ownership, make the decision, and take the responsibility yourself to get yourself healthy, to make sure that you're doing the right things for your body, you are going to influence everyone in your path. Whether that is your immediate family, whether that's colleagues watching the way that you make choices. So I absolutely started this process by myself with a pantry full of all of those things, the Oreos, the Doritos, the ice cream, and going out to get milkshakes and getting ice cream with the family. I was the only one that had made the choice from the beginning. And so that is definitely one of the things that I will say is that it is a journey. It's not something that it's a light switch. I was the one that received the diagnosis. And so I was influencing. However, I was not the food police. And trust me when I say I tried to be the food police and it doesn't work. So I would encourage you to put that oxygen mask on first, and then they will start to see the changes in you, your health. And the other thing I did that was another strategy was to really make those changes. Like I said, as far as I wasn't putting things in my children's lunch that was harmful for them. I've never been one for Lunchables, but I did find that Planters has a P3, a protein pack that they could snack on without the extra carbs. There are almond butters that are chocolate flavored. So there are ways that you can make some small tweaks. Even there's this Barney version that kind of comes in a cup. So you can put this into your kids' lunch. So there are fruit, instead of the fruit drinks, what are they called? Fruit juices. There are alternatives with 0 or a couple of grams of sugar in there. I think the flavor is Honest, or the brand is Honest. So there are alternatives that you can shift to as far as your children are concerned. But number one, encouraging them to actually taste these things, making the switches gradually after they see that it's not that bad, after they actually taste. And they will get to the place where they're eating the fruits and vegetables if you make them available. So the pantry, everyone can go in, but one of the things that I do is I've got a fruit basket full of apples and oranges. I also would, in my prep on Sundays, I'll cut up my berries. I will cut up and wash strips of green peppers with cucumbers and that sort of thing, kiwi. And I will set those things out with hummus, flavored hummus with pesto with cucumbers and with green peppers is heaven. And once you make these things also available, they'll start to graze on the things that are just as good for them, as far as grapes, those types of things. So switching away from the melons, which are higher in the glycemic index, down to a lot lower glycemic index food, but making sure that it's available as an alternative for them to munch on as well.
You're saying basically you modeled this behavior and you made it available to them. If you like what I have, you'll do what I do. Usually people aren't that motivated by health. Did you lose weight, or did you seem more happy generally? What was it that they saw that would attract them?
It was all of the things. It was the energy level. It was the weight loss. And I would actually talk about my experience. I don't know whether it's Bitten or it might be Bitten, talks about, especially with teenagers, to share truth bombs. And so just talking about what sugar does to your brain and reminding them do you know those times when you have cereal in the morning and you're taking a test and you're not able to concentrate? It might be because of the fact that it was cereal, it wasn't protein and a more balanced meal. Sharing information around how changes in your lifestyle, changes in the foods that you eat, help you to concentrate, and do it in the context of what is important to them. I've got my youngest son is a football player.
I was going to ask you, how did you get your son? Because usually at teenage, they don't want to hear you.
Yeah. So I put things in context of being able to understand the plays, being able to focus on doing well in school and those types of things. So helping him to understand that there is a connection with, I've got another son who's got ADHD, the connection with your attention span and the things that we're eating from a sugar or carb perspective. The importance of having a well-rounded diet with fruits and vegetables and proteins and that sort of thing. So sharing the information with them without any connection, with just helping them to become a little bit more aware of what they're doing and how it's affecting their bodies. But just like you said, modeling as opposed to looking down your nose at exactly what they're doing, what they're not doing. And like I said, trust me, I was the food police and it didn't work.
Yeah. What about family rituals like watching the game with chips or people coming over and you always have the pizza? How do you deal with that kind of thing?
Yeah, I make both and make both available. So as far as pizza is concerned, I do cauliflower pizzas or like those little pizza cups using a very large pepperoni as the cup and then make the filler inside. So there are a multitude of ways to enjoy the same types of food that are low carb or low sugar. The same thing with going to 4th of July. I make sure that I have cut up fruits and vegetables. So I normally take a fruit and a vegetable tray, and it's the first thing that goes because everybody is gravitated to it. Number one, make sure that you have what you need from an availability perspective. And number two is making sure that you are being that catalyst. And you will see the influence that you have.
Do you ever have a pizza from the local pizza parlor land in your house?
I do.
Yeah. So what do you do then?
So for me, I just choose not to. So the great thing is that many of the pizza places also have wings. And so I just order wings. And then I make that available for my son as well. And so we make a different choice. And then the other thing, Dr. Vera, that you have to be very stern in is nobody else can live your life. And so you have to make the choices for yourself. And trust me when I say it takes me longer to order at Starbucks or a fast food place because I'm asking for a lettuce wrapped burger or what have you, grilled nuggets at Chick-fil-A. I eat everywhere, but I just make modifications. And sometimes my husband does roll his eyes because it's not the number one on the menu and it doesn't take 2 seconds. But I have to know for myself that what I'm doing for myself is going to help me to be healthy, to be strong, and be here for the family at large. So you have to be a little bit thick-skinned and know that my body can't handle what my teenagers are eating, or even my husband, because he's a lot larger and his metabolism is different from mine. But really being committed to your own health and really having a sense of why you want to make this transition will help you to be exactly what it is that you need to be for the long haul. Yeah. And make sure that it's not a diet, but it's truly a lifestyle.
To make it truly a lifestyle is you have to be very creative. What are some quick resources? Do you have your own cookbook? Or some of these ideas I hadn't even heard of, using the pepperoni as a crust.
You're the second person that has said that. I do not have my own cookbook, but I do have like a 30-day meal plan. But I'm going to put one together. I'm going to put one together just for you.
Yeah.
Because I have all the hacks, whether that's from ice cream to pizza to pasta. So I eat out for Mother's Day. I had lunch at Olive Garden with my mom, and many of their dishes are over pasta. Yeah. And so I just put whatever it is over a bed of lettuce, not lettuce, but spinach. And so it is just as good. And I'm able to eat a little bit of the breadstick because I still like carbs, but I just don't overdo it. I don't carb load my whole day. So eat plenty of their wonderful salad. I have a fourth of their breadstick, and then I put whatever the dish is over a bed of spinach.
I think a great book like hacks, because it's not recipes you're talking about, it's how to live life outside, adjusting.
Yes.
Now, what do you do when somebody comes over or you go somewhere and they make a cake for you? You're in a social situation where people are pushing the sweets. How do you deal with that?
Like I said, it's all about preparation, and it's all about making sure that you are prepared for all of these things. And like I shared, either abstaining or having something that is an alternative, like the kind bars.
I know, but they made the cake for you. It's Mother's Day, have some.
So if you're not sugar addicted, then I would say maybe take a sliver or just a bite of someone to say that you've tasted it. But you're going to find, number one, that it's going to be too sweet. And then number two, people respect when you say, I can't have that for whatever reason. We're not pushing salt on someone who has high blood pressure. So you really have to be that your own health advocate. But I have been in situations where I'm at a famous cake boss's bakery because my children wanted to go. We were in Philadelphia. And so they had the cake and these slices were absolutely too much. And I had a cannoli without the filling in it. I had just a taste of the red velvet cake. But that is the max that I would ever do.
And you're able to do that. For our listeners, if you can do that, you're in early stage and fine. But if you can't do that, don't try.
Yeah, don't try. And like I said, it's been 10 years that I've been in this lifestyle. And so my palate has changed and I couldn't eat a whole slice of cake. I couldn't drink a Pepsi or a milkshake or anything. I still can have like a piece of caramel or something like that. And it's still good, but I don't have to have it. And so when I say that I've got power over sugar, I've got power over sugar where I can have that little one bite and that's it, or abstain and not have any problem with it, or even same thing with alcohol. I've given up alcohol as well. But I've done this over time. And like I shared, I've done this because I have gotten rid of the sugar. I have increased the fruits and vegetables. I have increased my water. I've managed my stress level. So I have changed slowly. Now I don't crave in between meals. I actually eat 3 square meals a day. I don't crave in the middle. So I'm on a intermittent fasting, if you will. But I didn't try to intermittent fast when I was trying to give up sugar. I made that gentle switch.
Yeah.
And then I made sure that I was not only having regular protein and cooked vegetables, but I added that raw vegetable as well and had the berries for dessert. So I'm still satisfying my overall palate. I'm still getting that sweetness from natural sugars, but I'm full. I'm drinking water. I'm not dehydrated. That's another trigger for many people who crave. And then I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I don't actually need these kind bars anymore. I don't need to snack on nuts, but I have them available if I want to have something. And you mentioned going to the movies and that sort of thing. I now take a baggie of mixed nuts or pistachios with me. And I'm still having that sensation of the endless bottom of the popcorn, but just snacking on nuts. And so you get to that place where no matter what your situation is, someone's birthday, my birthday, where I am not influenced by other people and their decisions. I make the decisions for myself.
Getting back to the family, one of the areas that I find, baffling is that parents will say, I want the kid to decide. But when a kid is 5 years old, don't we have the ability to say, no, you can't have this? So you're modeling your behavior for your teenage son, which is totally appropriate because they are an adult. What about that young child that hasn't yet developed good judgment?
Yeah. And it's a tough thing. Just to go back to what happened with my son, he at 13 was diagnosed as having type 1 diabetes, right, where your pancreas stops making insulin when you have this diagnosis. And most parents of type 1 diabetics, and I know many, will simply say, oh, he's been diabetic since he's 4. He can eat whatever he wants to eat. Just make sure that he's covering the carbs with the insulin. Yeah. So because I know and had gone through this process for myself, I didn't make that the way of which we ate in our house. So I shared with him and He's heard over the course of the years why I do what I do. My body just can't handle it anymore. And I shared with him. Now he still eats candy. He's still a teenager. But from a carb loading perspective and the amount that he's eating, he does not go excess and overboard. And as a result of it, he had a 50% reduction in his hemoglobin A1C. And 4 years later, he's still making insulin. So the thing that I'm imploring and helping your parents to understand is we are the adults. We've got the information and we know how it affects us later in life, making sure that we're protecting them.
That's my take, that we're protecting them.
Is the way that we share with them. Your body can't handle all of this, and giving them alternatives. So making sure that they have something that is lower in sugar content than a whole bowl of ice cream. A bowl of ice cream has 48 grams of sugar in it. So 1 cup has 28, but no one eats a cup of ice cream. And so what I started doing is I found these kind of frozen bars for myself because I love ice cream. This has no dairy in it at all. They use tapioca. It tastes like a frozen Snickers bar, but this breaks my rules. It has 8 grams of sugar in it. But I'd rather my husband and my son to eat 2 of these, which they do, as opposed to 48 grams of sugar and then go to bed. Giving them alternatives that taste just as good with less sugar is a strategy that you can do with a 5-year-old. Yeah. But it's going to take some preparation. It's going to take identifying, number 1, what those things are, making sure that you're reading the labels. But number 2, having them with you. So if you are in a social setting, you're like, try this, or making sure that they just eat before they actually go to a party so that they're not ravenous because they're going to have fun and they're going to burn calories and everything. Make sure that they're full, make sure that they're hydrated, and then they won't be as hangry when you say, try this or have that. And if they have had it before, they'll know how good it is. Or make sure that the portion size is not as large as someone else serving it, if you will.
What would you advise a parent who's sending their kid off to school? I guess it's a harm reduction approach.
It is. Absolutely. It is. It is.
So you would get them to eat ahead of time, make sure they drink enough, make sure they have alternatives, basically.
That's right.
What about the kid in the grocery store who has a temper tantrum because they want that thing? That's being advertised by Big Sugar as something that is so appealing the kid has to have it. What do you do in that circumstance?
Yeah. So just like you do with them wanting, for my kids, it was Beyblades and the Pokemon cards and all of the things. You can't have everything you want every time you go to the store or else we'd be broke. And unfortunately, you're just going to have to either remove them from the situation and come back without them, or just have them hold it. This is what I did with my kids. Have them hold whatever the thing was while we're in the cart, and then share with them, we're not going to be able to get this today. And you hand it to the cashier, and then you finish checking out. Yeah, I've been there, done that, got all these t-shirts.
But then they have the tantrum then. No, I want that thing.
Unfortunately, it will happen a couple of times, but then they learn, sometimes I do get the thing and sometimes I don't get the thing. But if you condition them that if you give them an audience and if you give in to them every time they have a tantrum, then you're just teaching them that all I have to do is make a lot of noise and I get what I want. Yeah. And what I did was I made sure that they had a tantrum in their car seat, but it was protecting them. It was a safety mechanism. You just have to listen to them cry at that point. Same thing in the store. Like I said, if you can't control them in the situation by sharing with them, you can hold it, but we're not going to buy it this time. And that if that doesn't appease them, then you have to remove them from the situation. The problem with our society is we don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to be the one not drinking when everyone else is having a mixed drink. We don't want to be the one that's not having cake when we know that it's harmful. And unfortunately, you have to become uncomfortable so that you can save your life. we are slowly dying as a society.
Yeah.
And there are ways to still enjoy the goodness of food, be a little bit uncomfortable, make these pivots in your lifestyle, and live in abundance.
Yeah, one example of that would be we have to learn to be uncomfortable when our grandparent or doting aunt or partner wants to give sugar, to say, no, I'd really rather you didn't do that for my children or for me.
Yes, yeah. And I'll give a great example. My mother-in-law, my husband is from West Africa. And as a grandparent, that's what they do, is they give gifts. They give and want to make sure that the kids are receiving, if you will. And one of the things that she would do is she wouldn't just give like a baggie of M&Ms. She would get the big size of not even M&Ms. It was like Skittles and what the square ones, Starburst, and all of these things. And my youngest had cavities. And so I had to sit her down and share with her. Unfortunately, he can't have all of these chewy things that get caught in their teeth. He can have cakes. He can have brownies. He can have chocolate. They're not going to be as bad on his teeth. And I had to, outside of the situation where the kids were coming over, kind of share with her. And it didn't work all of the time. And so I had to be the parent to not give them that candy or what have you, but standing firm in your belief, because you can get a gift from someone else, and then we're going to have to pay the consequences as far as 3 or 4 cavities and baby teeth. No, we don't want that. We don't want that. Making sure that you're communicating ahead of time once you see the behavior starting is another strategy to help to make sure that you maintain the proper level of influence, if you will, over protecting your children from a health perspective, even with grandparents, even with aunts and uncles. And they will understand eventually.
Eventually, yeah. You're training them as well. But I think the key piece is that you have to learn to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because we are a food addiction audience, that means being very uncomfortable to say,
exactly,
you can't even have a little bit of this, but here is an alternative. I think that's the key.
Yes, exactly.
Is there something that you see parents doing a lot of that you would say, don't do that?
I would definitely say it's going with the flow of being attuned to your children, their energy levels, their attention spans. You mentioned the tantrums. These are all negative effects of too many carbs, too much sugar. So being that protector and making sure that you're starting to notice what happens 2 hours after your child has too much sugar, too much carbs, what have you, and then making a choice to reduce it and making sure that you are in a position to say, you know what, whenever this happens, I see this behavior, I want to make sure that this is stopped now. Even from a weight gain perspective and energy level, there's so many things that our kids have to look forward to in their lives. And if we can make some of these small tweaks early, they don't develop the same palate that we did as children.
Yeah, you're saying is we can actually influence their palate early on and also their behavior early on so that it's not such a problem later on.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's shift to a different area. You've been doing summits. Can you tell us a little bit about your summit?
Sure. Yeah. So I do on a monthly basis, I interview experts like Dr. Vera, and it's all about emotional eating, cravings, many of the different things that sugar addiction incorporate that realm of preventing the sugar addiction and arresting the sugar addiction. This month is all about inflammation. So inflammation reduction is the theme. So I have different themes to my monthly interview series, anywhere from 6 to 8 specialists that I interview, and it's a different topic every month, or it's all about sugar addiction, emotional eating, and cravings.
That's how I got to know you, was asking me to be one of these speakers. In that context of being a social media influencer, do you feel like there's hope that we're getting the message out to the larger community through these ventures?
As long as we're talking about tangible solutions, and that's the difference between my masterclass is I want each of the speakers to really leave you with 1 to 3 tips on whatever that is. So this month, it's all going to be about reducing your inflammation, sugar addiction, what have you. So they'll talk about the aspect of their specialty, but then they'll also give you 3 tips that you can take away that day, having more information and more ways to actually implement the strategies in your life.
Do you feel like there has been a change in the last 5 years, 10 years of societal recognition?
There has been, from not only a shift in our behaviors, our choices, but also from the packaged foods industry. You now see commercials where Pepsi and Coke and all of the other beverage manufacturers are talking about their sugar-free or sugar-reduced options. That was never the case 10 years ago. There are alternatives, natural alternatives. The artificial sweeteners spike your blood sugar almost just as high as regular sugar. There are now stevia and monk fruit, natural alternatives that won't spike your blood sugar. And so, industry perspective, I'm also seeing that there are more and more alternatives. So as you're making these changes in your life, you can do it and still have it in a way that you're not so excluded. Even from an alcoholic beverage perspective, I don't drink any longer, but there are alcoholic beverages, they call them spiked seltzers, that don't have the added sugars in them. Yeah. From every aspect, you can have a lower or a zero sugar alternative.
As an overview, your message in the food addiction world, which is a large, complex, varied world, that you would be speaking to the general public before they become food addicts or sugar addicts, to steer them in the other direction, or early stage to where they are still able to moderate so that they don't progress to a worse stage. Your message is, I don't know if the word is soft pedaling has a negative connotation, but it's more palatable for the general public to hear your message than maybe my message, which is you just got to quit that stuff. I think you're speaking to a larger community of people who are in their early days, and you're not scaring them away because you're giving them modeling and behavior. I really love that concept of I'm not the food police. I'm just an example of what you could have alternatively. Would that be a fair assessment?
It is. And then even if you are in that camp where you already are a diabetic and you want to get off all of those medications, there's still hope. That's the one thing that I want to share with you is, and your listeners, is the fact that it doesn't matter where you are on that continuum. There is always a next level, and there's always a way for you to tweak and make the change so that is a sustainable lifestyle. Yeah. And so if you do this gradually, and you do it, like I said, in the manner that we both teach, you can get the results and you don't have to look back, and you can be that advocate, not only for yourself, your family, but also those that you come in contact with.
Thank you. By way of closing, what's next for you?
Next for me, like I said, I do this on a monthly basis. I have my Pressure Cravings Masterclass, and I do the one-on-ones as well as the family VIP days. And then I also have a group coaching program that's 6 months as well, which adds into that community focus as well. But just a good question, Dr. Vera. I don't have a next right now. So I've got to figure, you know what? I'm going to do a cookbook or a hack book.
Yes. Thank you. I think that's a great thing.
I'm going to do a hack book.
Okay. One more signature question. If you could tell a younger version of Kathy something about sugar, what would it be?
Kathy, sugar is sweet, but it's not always going to be sweet to you. So make sure that you do it in moderation and listen to your body early so that you can have a sweet life later.
Very good. All right. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Awesome. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here and help. One thing I would like to share as well is the fact that I've got a book. It's called Oh So Sweet to Live Sugar-Free. So this is my 5-step process to eliminate the progression to diabetes.
Thank you. So there'll be this book and the next one that will be available.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on Food Junkies, Recovery from Food Addiction. Make sure to join our Facebook group, Sugar-Free for Life Support Group, I'm Sweet Enough. You can subscribe to our show in iTunes or Stitchers. That way you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Dr. Tarman's book, Food Junkies, which is available on Amazon. If you have any additional questions, both Molly and Clarissa are food addiction professionals and work one-on-one with clients. You can find their websites and email addresses in the show notes. Be sure to tune in every Friday when our new episodes drop. As Vera loves to say, the power is ours.